Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So this video is a must-watch video lesson for all the IELTS students. As in this lesson, I'm going to give you all the essential information and tips that you need to be successful in your IELTS listening test. So let's start by reviewing the exam content and then I'll give you a lot of useful tips. So, the IELTS listening test is same for all the students, whether you are taking academic IELTS or general training IELTS. You all take the same test, the same questions, the same format and the same scoring. There are 40 questions in total and there are 4 sections. The first 2 sections are the easiest and the context is a social situation, an everyday situation. And the last 2 sections are more difficult and they are academic in content. Now section 1. Section 1 has 2 speakers and a social situation is there. For example, a phone conversation where someone is registering for a course or perhaps booking a table at a restaurant or organizing to meet someone. So it's a specific information and quite easy. Then section 2. Section 2 is also social, based on everyday situation, but there is only one speaker. An example would be a tour guide, explaining about a resort or building and providing history or information, etc. Now section 3. Section 3 is an academic section and has 3 or 4 speakers. Now this is challenging because when you have got 3 to 4 speakers, that means you have got different voices and you have to identify who is speaking and who is saying what. So that could be quite challenging. But the most difficult is section 4, that is only one speaker and it is an academic lecture. The listening test takes 40 minutes in total. 30 minutes for the audio means you have 30 minutes to listen to the recording and answer the questions. At the end of 30 minutes, you are given another 10 minutes so that you can transfer your answers from the question paper to the answer sheet. IELTS is an international test, so there will be a range of accents, but the main accent will probably be British and Australian. So you will hear the voices and the accents of British or Australian. IELTS accept either British English or American English spellings. Now, very important and useful tips for listening test. First, you will hear the recording only once. It is not played again. So that means that when you have your test, you need to listen to the recording, read the questions and at the same time write down your answers also. So that means at one time you are listening, reading and writing. So you really are multitasking during this listening test. It can be quite difficult and it's something that you need to practice. Now it's very important that you practice transferring your answers to the answer sheet before you go into your IELTS test, so that you get comfortable with all parts of the test, and that includes spending 10 minutes transferring your answers clearly so that they can be easily read on to the answer sheet. Many students get confused that can they use a pencil or a pen? The answer is that you need to write your answers onto the answer sheet using a pencil. Now the tip number 5. The scores are calculated by the number of correct answers you have. So there are 40 questions, there are 40 points and each time you get a correct answer, you get a point, and that is how your band scores are calculated. So let's move on to the next step. Even if you don't know the answer, guess. You have to write something in the box in answer sheet. Maybe you guess the right answer. Now, next is you can write your answers in capital letters or lowercase. You can choose, but whichever one you choose, you must stay with that. However, I recommend using all capital letters. Next, if you look at your question paper, it will always tell you how many words you need for the answer. For example, no more than 2 words and or a number. These instructions you have got to pay attention every time you get a new type of question. So you must always look how many words. So you can underline it quickly to avoid any confusion. If the question says no more than 2 words, it means we cannot have 3. No more than 2 words and or a number means we can have 2 words and a number, or we can just have a number. So be very careful with the instructions. Sometimes it says and or numbers, and if that's plural, it means you might have 2 numbers. So make sure you pay attention to the instructions very closely. Now many students get confused that should we use prepositions? Like should we write at the restaurant or only restaurant? So the answer is, well, it depends on the type of question you have, and at the same time you have to pay attention at the number of words you need to write as per instructions given in the question. Now for example, if you are completing the sentence like the best place to meet is, now here grammatically the preposition is correct, so we will write at the restaurant. The best place to meet is at the restaurant. And if the question is a note or form completion such as a place, you have to mention only place here, so you will write the word restaurant. So the answer can be just one word. You can write with or without the article. So if the instruction says that 2 words are possible, you can write the restaurant, and if it says that only one word is allowed, you will write only restaurant. So it's totally depend on the type of question. Correct spelling. Now this is important. If you spell a word incorrectly, it will be marked wrong. So that means, of course, when you are listening, you don't have time to think about spelling, but listening, you have 10 minutes at the end of your test to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. So that is the time for you to pay attention to spellings and capital letters and checking the grammar also. Now tip number 13. Should you write words or letters on your answer sheet? Now in the question of complete the sentence with 1 or 2 words, you need to write word. But if it's a multiple choice with instruction to choose the correct letter, you will write letter only. If you write the word here, even if it is correct, it will be marked wrong. So make sure you read the instructions well. Now number 14. One of the most important tips to help you prepare for your IELTS listening test is to learn about the types of questions that you will get in your listening exam. So there are quite a lot, as you can see here, that are of different types of questions, and you need to practice each type of question when you get in your IELTS test. And you attempt the test, you have enough time to read the questions and answers, but you don't have enough time to try to understand what to do if you have never seen that type of questions before. So knowing and having a strategy and a technique for each type of question is very important for your IELTS listening test. Now, one of the most difficult types of question is the multiple choice. That's often where you have A, B or C to choose from. But multiple choice could also be a very long list, for example 8 options, and you need to answer 3 questions relating to all those 8 options. So there are different kinds of multiple choice. There is also map completion, where you are given the map of a town or some streets or some building plan, and it could be diagram labeling also, or you could also have a flow chart as well. So there's a lot of different types of questions that you have to practice before performing your IELTS listening test. Now next tip is that don't try to understand everything. The aim for IELTS listening and reading is to find answers to questions only. So a correct answer is all you want. So you just need to look at your question, try to think of what type of answer you are looking for. There will be a lot of extra information given in the recordings, but you just need to relax and focus on the answers that you are looking for. Now next tip is that answers can come quickly. So be prepared for that. The answers do not come at regular intervals. You could get suddenly three answers coming together. That means you need to keep your eye on the question that you are attempting and be prepared for the next question also. So you don't lose time. You don't get lost. Avoid writing long words in question paper. Instead, you can write the short version of the word to save time. But while transferring answer to the answer sheet, you need to write the full word. Now, one thing important is that you need to prepare your answers and questions now before you listen to the recording. You will hear a message and it will say to you that now you have time to prepare questions 1 to 5. That means you will have time to prepare and read questions 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Then you will listen to it, and after you will have chance to prepare questions 6, 7, 8 and 9, and you are always given time to prepare. But it's not long. So you do need to train yourself to prepare questions quickly. Sometimes there could be a gap in the answers, and this is when students start to panic. They are listening and waiting, and there's no answer, and the recording is going, and they got very nervous. And that's the reason it's important to underline your keywords, because then you know that you need to wait for these words to come. So don't panic. You need to be calm and keep listening. Keep your eye on the next question. You can make notes while you are listening and be prepared for any gaps. Now, next tip is that IELTS is a listening test, and they know that many foreign language speakers struggle to hear plurals. So you need to pay attention that word have an S on the end or not now. Now, if you have a sentence completion, sometimes you can see in the grammar that you need a plural answer. So just take a look, but keep your ears open for those plurals. Now, tip number 18, giving the answer and then changing it. Now, it's a very common trap, and these are the ways that IELTS really try to test your understanding and your vocabulary. Now, I'll give you an example of a common trap. This is when the answers are given. So, for example, is it fine to meet at 6 pm? Yes, 6 pm works fine for me. Oh, I've just remembered I have a late meeting. Could we make it half past instead? So suddenly, instead of the answer being 6, it is now 6:30. So when you listen and you hear your answer, obviously you can make a note of the answer, but keep listening because the answer might be changed. So be careful with that. And another type of trap is when you have the same words in the question and the same words in the recording. So of course people immediately think, oh, this is my answer. But actually that could be a trap, because usually else will use paraphrasing rather than using the exact same words. So always be a little bit suspicious when you hear all the same words, and you need to practice with such common traps before you enter for your IELTS listening test. Tip number 19, that if you miss an answer, just move on to the next question. Don't waste your time, don't lose your place in the recording. So you just need to concentrate, because 30 minutes is the long time to actively listen for answers. If you lose focus, you will definitely miss the answers. So don't let that happen. Practice full test at home to build up your ability to concentrate, and all the best for your IELTS listening test. Thank you.